Chioma was no ordinary teenager. She was the first daughter in a strict Christian home, raised with strong values that guided her every step. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Obinna, were pillars of their local church, and they worked tirelessly to ensure that Chioma and her siblings grew up with the fear of God in their hearts. Chioma's days were filled with school, church, and chores. Her father would always remind her, "Chioma, remember the ways of the Lord. The world outside is full of temptations, but with prayer and patience, you will achieve your goals." Chioma believed every word, her faith anchoring her. She was smart, disciplined, and determined to excel in school, always dreaming of becoming a lawyer. Her younger siblings looked up to her, and her parents held her up as a shining example of what a dedicated young Christian should be. Her small circle of friends was just as focused as she was. Uju, her best friend, was top of the class in science, while Ebube, another close friend, often led their study group discussions. Together, they made a solid team, helping each other with homework and staying focused on their future goals. None of them cared much for material things. At least, that was true until everything began to change. It was with whispers in the school hallways, hushed conversations about girls who had started dating older, wealthier men, married men who brought them expensive gifts and took them on luxurious trips. Chioma had heard these rumors before, but she never paid much attention. She was focused on her studies. After all, besides, what didn't matter if some girls were spoiled with gifts? That wasn't her part. But then, the iPhones came, shiny, sleek, and new. The latest models became the status symbol that separated the popular girls from the rest. It wasn't long before the girls who had these phones started flaunting them in the most extravagant way. They take selfies, snap videos, and spend breaks gossiping about the lavish dates they went on. At first, Chioma barely noticed. Her mind was occupied with preparing for her exam, and she enjoyed the company of Uju, Ebere, and Ebube, who shared her passion for academic excellence. But one day, while they sat under the tree in the schoolyard, going over class notes, Sandra, a classmate known for her new clothes and designer clothes, walked by with her group of friends laughing loudly. "Look at them," Sandra said, her voice carrying enough air as she flashed the iPhone screen, still reading textbooks like they don't know what's out there. Maybe one day they'll join the real world. Her words stole more than Chioma wanted to admit. Uju nudged her and whispered, "Don't mind them, Chioma, they have their own lives, but we know what we are working towards." Chioma smiled and nodded, but a seed of doubt had already been planted. She didn't mind her simple life until moments like this made her feel like she was missing out on something bigger. As the weeks passed, it became harder to ignore. The girls with iPhones and fancy clothes were invited to all the best parties, and their social status skyrocketed. They were the center of attention, and Chioma began to feel increasingly excluded from their conversation. One day, Sandra and Laura invited everyone to a weekend outing. Everyone except for Chioma and her friends. Laura laughed as she scrolled through her phone, eyes never leaving the screen. "Sorry, Chioma, this is for iPhone owners only. Maybe next time." The comment was meant to be playful, but the exclusion was clear. Chioma's heart sunk as her friends looked at her sympathetically. "That's not important, Chioma," Ebube said, her voice steady. "Let's focus on the maths test we have next week. They're just distracting themselves with all these things." Chioma nodded, but as she watched Sandra and her group flaunt their lives, the desire to be part of that world grew stronger. Chioma tried to push the thoughts away, but they followed her everywhere. At home, she would lay in bed, replaying Sandra's words in her head. Slowly, her focus began to shift. Schoolwork became less of a priority, and instead, she found herself thinking about the latest trends, the latest phones, and how different life might be if she could ever have what Sandra had. Uju and Ebube noticed the change first. "Chioma, you've been so distracted lately," Uju said one afternoon as they studied at her house. "Is something wrong?" Chioma shrugged. "I'm fine, just tired, I guess." But she wasn't fine. Every day, the gap between her and her friends widened. She started skipping study lessons, making excuses to avoid spending time with them. Uju and Ebube tried to pull her back, but Chioma's attention was elsewhere. At first, Chioma did her best to ignore the comments. She knew her parents couldn't afford the latest phone, and she didn't want to burden them with her desires. They had always worked hard towards providing for her and her siblings, making sure there was enough food on the table and that school fees were paid on time. Chioma admired their sacrifice and never asked for more than what they could give. But the pressure from her peers only grew stronger. Chioma, you're so smart, but you don't even have a decent phone. One of her classmates teased one afternoon. How do you expect to keep up with us if you can't even keep up with the trends? The word stung more than Chioma wanted to admit. She noticed that slowly people were starting to exclude her from conversations, and her once close group of friends began drifting away. It seemed as though everything in their world revolved around their phones, and without one. She tried everything she could think of to raise money for the phone. She began offering tutorial sessions to younger students, helped with household chores for neighbors, and even sold some of her personal belongings. But despite her efforts, it was never enough. The phone remained just out of reach, a shiny object of desire she couldn't grasp. Desperate for advice, Chioma turned to one of her older friends, Uche, who always seemed to know how to get what she wanted. Uche was popular, confident, and always had the latest gadget, though Chioma had never questioned how she afforded them. One day, Chioma confided in her, explaining how hard she had tried but failed to gather the money. Uche listened quietly before leaning in, her voice low and persuasive. Chioma, sometimes you have to make sacrifices if you really want something, she said. There are ways to get what you want. You just have to be willing to do things others aren't. Chioma's heart raced as she listened. What do you mean? There are men who would pay you well, Chioma. All you need to do is spend a little time with them. No one needs to know, and you'll have that phone in no time. Chioma recalled at the suggestion at first, but Uche's words lingered in her mind. You want to fit in, don't you? You want to be the only one left behind? As the days passed, Chioma wrestled with her thoughts. She knew what Uche was suggesting was wrong, but the desire to have that phone, to finally feel like she belonged, gone that hard. She had begun spending more time with Uche, a girl known for her wide lifestyle. Uche had the latest clothes, the best phones, and never seemed to worry about anything. She neglected her friends who had countless times tried to reach out to her. She was too engulfed to be like Uche, as she was everything Chioma secretly envied. Uche smirked. You're just scared. But trust me, it's easy. All you have to do is wait the right man, and he will take care of everything. No more worrying about school, no more feeling left out. The thought lingered in Chioma's mind for days. She couldn't stop thinking about how her life could change if she only had what other girls had. The iPhone, the clothes, the parties, everything she had once ignored now felt like it was within reach. It took weeks for Chioma to make her decision. She wrestled with her conscience, remembering her parents' words about staying on the right path, but the desire for more was overwhelming. One evening, after much hesitation, she approached Uche again. How does it work? Her voice trembling with uncertainty. Uche smiled knowingly. I knew you'd come around. Don't worry, it's simple. There is a man I know. He's older, but he's generous. You'll meet him and he'll give you whatever you want. Chioma's heart raced, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through her veins. This wasn't something she had imagined for herself, but she felt trapped by her desires. She wanted to belong, to feel important, and this seemed like the only way. A few days later, Uche arranged the meeting. Chioma dressed in her best clothes, her hands trembling as she prepared to meet the man who would change her life. Uche had introduced the man to her as a senator. They had a brief dinner with Uche's man there too. It was obvious they were both married, as the way they looked and the way they both wore their wedding band. After dinner, they went to the hotel room. After Uche had told her to relax and not worry, that she would live here with lots of money. In the room, the man was acting strange around Chioma. Chioma, still being a virgin with little or no sex education, listened to the advice of the man. who told her he would be gentle and that she should relax, that he would be gentle with her. But he deceived her and had carnal knowledge of her without protection. It was painful and brief to Chioma, but as soon as he handed her a big envelope, enough to buy the phone, she had done so much to raise the money, it felt worth the stress. Though she hated what she had done, but she convinced herself it was worth it. The next day, with the money in hand, Chioma went to buy the iPhone she had dreamed of. When she walked into the school the following Monday, flaunting her new phone, Sandra and Laura were stunned. "Wow, Chioma, you've joined us," Laura exclaimed, admiring the phone. "Looks like someone finally caught up." For a moment, Chioma felt the rush of satisfaction. She finally made it. She was part of the group now, no longer the outsider, watching from the sideline. She attended the latest parties, she started drinking and feeling on top of the world. She avoided her friends who tried to advise her as she was missing tests. Her grades were slipping, and they told her she wasn't the same anymore, as she would lie to her parents that she was going for evangelism or retreat in her friend's church. Meanwhile, she was going for parties. She felt she was on top of the world and enjoyed every bit of what she was getting. But the excitement was short-lived. Weeks passed, and the joy of owning the iPhone faded. The attention from Sandra and Laura waned as they found new distractions, leaving Chioma feeling empty once again. The phone, once her prized possession, was just another object, and the thrill she had felt was gone. Then the illness began. At first, it was just fatigue. Chioma thought it was stress of school catching up with her, but the symptoms worsened. She started feeling lightheaded, her body growing weaker with each passing day. Soon, she couldn't concentrate in class, her grades slipping as her health deteriorated. Her parents, ever watchful, noticed the changes. "Chioma, you've been looking so pale lately. Are you alright?" her parents asked one evening, her brow filled with concern. Chioma forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mama, just tired." But she wasn't fine. The illness grew worse, and Chioma knew deep down that it was because of the man she had met, the man who had given her the money for the iPhone. The guilt of her actions weighed heavily on her. She knew something was wrong with her body, but the shame of how she got here kept her from speaking out. Each day, her sickness worsened, until one morning, she couldn't get out of bed. Her limbs felt like lead, and the world spun whenever she tried to stand. It was impossible to hide anymore. Her parents, alarmed by her sudden decline, rushed her to the hospital. It was there the truth came crashing down. Chioma had contracted a serious illness from the man she had slept with. The doctor's diagnosis was clear, and the room fell into heavy silence. Mr. Obinna clenched his fist, pacing back and forth, while Mrs. Obinna wept silently in the corner. Chioma could barely look them in the eyes. "How could you let this happen, Chioma?" her father asked, his voice tight with disappointment. "We raised you better than this. How could you throw away everything we taught you for a phone?" Her parents had no idea she had a new phone, and they thought she was still using the one given to her by them. They were so disappointed in her, and they were angry they did not take notice of it till it was too late. Chioma had no words. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she lay there weak and ashamed. She had sacrificed so much for something so worthless, and now she was paying the ultimate price. Word spread quickly through the school about Chioma's illness. Her once flashy iPhone, the symbol of her rise in popularity, had lost its allure. The friends she had desperately tried to impress, Sandra, Laura, and even Uche, were nowhere to be found. The same people who had encouraged her to chase material things now wanted nothing to do with her. Chioma spent weeks in the hospital, undergoing treatment, fighting both the physical sickness and the emotional torment of her choices. The only people who visited her were Uju, Ebere, and Ebube, the friends she had abandoned in a quest to fit in. They sat by her side, offering quiet support without judgment. "We've been worried about you," Uju said softly one afternoon, as she adjusted the flowers she had brought to Chioma's bedside. "We knew something was wrong, but you never told us." "I'm sorry," Chioma whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't listen. I wanted to be like them." Ebube squeezed her hands. "You don't have to explain, Chioma. We're just glad you're still here." Their forgiveness and unwavering support left Chioma feeling both grateful and ashamed. The people she had neglected in pursuit of fleeting admiration were the only ones who truly cared. Her so-called new friends had abandoned her in the moment she became an inconvenience. As hospital bills mounted and the cost of treatment weighed on her family, Chioma made a decision to sell the very phone that had brought her so much trouble. It was painful to let go, but she knew it was necessary. The money she received from selling the iPhone went directly to covering the medical expenses her parents had struggled to pay. Chioma's illness worsened, and it wasn't long before she was bedridden. The money she had earned from selling her body was gone, spent on treatment that didn't seem to help. She realized with a sinking heart as Chioma lay in bed, staring at an empty space where her phone once sat. She couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. The phone she had once desired so much was gone, sold off in a moment of desperation. Even if she still had it, the world had moved on. New phones had come out, and what she once thought was the ultimate status symbol was now outdated and forgotten. Meanwhile, her other friends graduated, got good jobs, and could afford the things she had once dreamed of, all without sacrificing themselves. They hadn't rushed, hadn't given in to pressure, and now they were reaping the rewards of their patience and hard work. In the end, Chioma was left with nothing but regret. She realized that in a haste to fit in, she had lost sight of what truly mattered. The very thing she had sacrificed so much for had brought her nothing but pain and disappointment. As time passed, Chioma slowly recovered from her illness, but the lessons she learned stayed with her. She understood now that life wasn't about chasing after the latest trend or sacrificing your value for temporary gains. The things she had always wanted could have been hers if only she had been patient. The world had a way of rewarding those who worked hard and waited for the right time. Her parents, though deeply disappointed, began to soften as they watched their daughter slowly return to health. They were strict but were also loving, and in time, they forgave her. The conversations at home were no longer filled with accusations or anger, but instead with prayers for her recovery and guidance for her future. Chioma's return to school was humbling. She was no longer the girl who had tried to impress others with material things. Her focus was back on her studies, and though it took time, she was ready to stay focused and dedicated in class. Meanwhile, Chioma found herself grounded in something far more lasting, her values and her purpose. And Chioma had learned more than she could have ever imagined. The lessons were hard, but it was one she would carry for the rest of her life. Her parents' word echoed in her mind every day. Patience is the path to success. God's way is the only way to avoid the world's trap. Chioma vowed never to stray again. One Sunday, after church service, Chioma was asked to lead a small group of teenage girls in a discussion about peer pressure. As she stood in front of them, she felt the weight of her journey, but also the power of her testimony. These were girls who, like her, came from strict homes and were just beginning to face the temptations of the world. "I made choices that I regret," Chioma began, her voice steady. "But those choices don't define who I am. What matters is how you can learn from your mistakes and grow. The world will try to pull you in different directions, but you have to remember who you are and what you stand for." The girls listened intently, their eyes wide with understanding. Chioma could see herself in them, eager to belong and unsure of how to navigate the pressures of life. As she spoke, she felt a sense of purpose. Everything she had gone through was now being used for something greater. When the session ended, one of the girls, a quiet 14-year-old named Ngozi, approached her with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for sharing your story, Chioma. I've been struggling too, and hearing you speak gives me hope." Chioma smiled and hugged her tightly. "You're not alone, Ngozi. We all face challenges, but you're strong enough to get through them. Just remember to stay true to yourself." The end. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please share this story to all the teenagers you know who are obsessed with iPhones. Let them know that it is not a do or die affair, and with patience, they will get theirs at the right time. You can also let them know things are happening to young girls these days with their sudden obsession with iPhone. A lot of girls have died in the process. A lot have been kidnapped. A lot no one have heard from them. Please share this to your loved ones, so that they will know the devil is not happy and is looking and looking for people to destroy. I love you all. Till next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please click on the subscribe button to support us. Turn on the post notification to get notified when I upload a new story. Like, share, and comment your thoughts. Till then, bye.